Okay, I think we'll make a start. Dave, it's much appreciated.
Good morning, everyone.
And I'm David Curtis. So we'll be taking you through today's session. Just very briefly, a little housekeeping. We're going to mute everyone for the session. However, we will be having questions and answers at the end of the call. And please feel free, as the session's going on, to add any questions into the chat box that you'll all have access to. And finally, we will be recording today's session, so please be aware of that. Okay, Carl, next slide, please. Great. So the agenda today, essentially, we're giving you an overview of Dynamics 365 CRM and the basics of the sales areas. But we will be concentrating our training session on the sort of the lead and the opportunity areas. So managing competitors, leads, the importance of qualifying and disqualifying leads, creating and managing opportunities, adding products to an opportunity. And this will actually be a brand new feature, a new bit of functionality that has literally just been released by Microsoft. So that's the first glance at that, which will be interesting. Producing a template from an opportunity, a quotation template, using the opportunity business process, and closing opportunities. So and then we'll wrap that up with a questions and answers session.
Excellent. Thank you, David. First of all, thank you everybody for your time today. I know time is precious, so we really appreciate you spending your time to have a look at the training session that we're delivering today. So let's get straight into it. Okay, looking to cover for today's training. So we're going to start off looking at how we move around and the different areas that we have on this training session. So what I'm going to do first of all is just give you an overview of the different items that we're going to cover, and then we'll jump into each part in more detail. So first of all, I'd like to give you an explanation of accounts, contacts, leads, and opportunities, just so that we're clear on what the terminology means from a CRM point of view. The words accounts, the words leads, the words opportunities, they can mean different things for different businesses. So I'm just going to give you what the CRM meanings of those words. Record could have been inserted from a business card. You know, you've had a trade show, you get some leads, and you import those or you add those manually inside the lead section. Also, some companies will have their lead section of their Dynamics linked up with their website. So where you have contact us pages on your website, they can be linked in with Dynamics and the leads inserted into Dynamics. So a lead is a holding area, it's unqualified records, and it keeps it separate from our opportunities, accounts, and contacts. So leads is an unqualified record. So accounts and contacts. So the word accounts, some people may relate it to their accounting package, accounts is within the accounting package, but accounts are just companies, they're just company names in the system. And we define accounts and contacts as your qualified records that you're working with. So your customers, your suppliers, your partners, your vendors, they would be listed in here as accounts in the database. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make a lead move into the account section. So we start off with a lead, we then want to move that to be a prospect in our account section, and we then want to turn that prospect into a customer. So a lead will go through a couple of stages to move it to be a customer. Now opportunities, so leads and opportunities. So the words leads and opportunities might mean the same thing or completely different things to different businesses. So leads are unqualified records. Leads is just literally name, number, and communications that you would record to your lead. What we're trying to do is turn that lead into an opportunity. So turn it into an opportunity, account, and a contact. And we'll step through this process in today's training. So an opportunity normally would have a monetary value against it. So they're interested in product X, Y, and Z, or service X, Y, and Z. And you as a salesperson are then trying to close that piece of business to one so that you have that on there. So a lead and opportunity. Lead is unqualified record, name and number. Opportunity is a monetary value against an account in the system. We also mentioned competitors in our agenda. So competitors, so these are your competitors that you may be competing with business. So it's a good idea to record some of your competitors inside the CRM system. And what that will allow you to do then is you can start logging against your leads or opportunities. If you know the competitors that you may be competing with, you can log those against your leads and opportunities. Give you a better understanding about where you are in the marketplace with your opportunities and things. So if there's a pattern emerging where you're losing leads or winning leads over certain competitors, you start logging that information, then you can start analyzing that information. So this is where we're going to start. We're going to start off with our competitors, just very brief subject, and then we're going to move into our leads, and then we're going to turn our lead into an opportunity, account, and contact. And then we'll open it up to some questions. Okay, so moving over to our competitors. So we have the navigation down here on the left-hand side. So we navigate through CRM on the left. Just a little tip here, what you can do is, so if you click this, it collapses that. And then if you hover over the icons, it tells you what they are. That can be quite useful because that then just frees up more space on the screen to see more of your CRM system. I like my sitemap on, so I'm going to keep mine on list. So we're just going to explain what we say. We select, you'll see a view. When we look at this with opportunities or leads, you'll see there'll be a lot more there. It's just a way that you can start filtering the records that you see by the competitors. For example, you can change your view to all competitors, and that will show you all your competitors that you're allowed to see. I've only got a couple in here, but you can also search for your data in here. So on the search box on the right-hand side, you can start typing in a name, and then that will show you the results. So that's just a brief summary about what we're seeing on the list. So we're going to click in to see a competitor. So if we take just a look at competitor A, so a competitor record has some really basic information. You can also start adding notes and attachments and things like that about your competitor into the timeline feature here as well. Seeing what opportunities we're competing for with that competitor, how many we've got in progress being related to that competitor. We'll flick back to competitor information being built up. If you want to add a new competitor, if I go back to my competitors list, just clicking on the left, check that the competitor isn't in the system. So nice and simple. So it's just a brief bit of information about competitors, because again, we're going to look back on this when we come to the leads and opportunities section. Unqualified are presented with a list of views on leads open this week, last week, open leads, what are my open leads. So there's lots of different views in here, and check to see if that data is there. You may have some duplicate detection rules enabled in your system, but there's nothing better than checking to see if that record is there. And I would do that simply just by performing a search on the right hand side here. So I'm just going to make up my lead. So let's say we've got Jane Smith, and I want to add that in. I would just do a check to make sure Jane isn't in the lead section. To add a new lead, I'm just going to press new. And then presented with the lead screen to enter the details. So just going to highlight a few key fields here. Anything marked with a red asterisk means it's required. It means you will not be able to save this record until you fill in those, and anything marked as being required. You may see some fields with a blue crosshair. So it's not required, it's recommended, it doesn't ask me to fill it out. It's more of a visualization to say, you know, if you have this, you should fill this in. All the other fields are optional. But I'm just going to fill in a few basics. So I'm just going to call this my sample lead from trade show. And we're going to put in here Jane Smith. Okay. So I've just put in some fictitious details in here to enter our lead. Anything into our timeline, we can't tag our competitors or any information like that at present. So we have to save our lead first, and when we save it, the other bits of information that we can add onto our lead will become available. So I'm going to press save. So now you see there's more information that becomes available that I can now perform on my lead. Something to note about save, create something new, you initially have to press the save button. Afterwards, you don't have to press the save button. So if I was to make an amendment to this record, you'll see down the bottom right here, it's recognized that there's a change, it's unsaved. If I move to a different screen, it will save it automatically. If I stay on the same screen, it runs about every 15 seconds that the save will then run automatically for you every 15 seconds. Okay, so we put in some basic details about our lead. So I've got the lead details, I've got the address, the company name. Just we were talking about that previously. So if I know that this lead has come in and we're competing with this lead with other competitors, add in existing competitor, and I can pick a competitor that I'm competing with against this lead. If there's more than one, I can just keep repeating that step to keep adding in additional competitors. So you can have more than one competitor tagged against your lead. So stakeholders, this is external influencers that might influence this. So you can log stakeholders against your leads. So if I click on the more commands, I can add a new connection, and I can connect this then to a contact in my CRM system. So I can type in, find the contact. So let's link this one to Mary. And I can add that in. So this is information empowering you as the user with the sale or community. Okay, so let's go around lead. So on the top right here, we have things like the lead source, what rating it is, and who owns the lead. So what happens is whenever you create anything in the system, you will own that lead until you change the owner to another person. So if you're part of marketing and you add the records in and then you distribute those out to different sales members, that's where here I could remove the owner and I could pick then a different owner that the lead will belong to. We've also then got a rating, so you can say whether it's a hot, warm or cold lead. And a lead source is then when you can say where this lead came from. So I'm going to say this came from a trade show. Okay, for details, you can see here. So this is where we can have extra. I want to focus your attention really on the marketing preferences over here. So whenever you create a record, by default in CRM, it says that you can allow to do all the marketing communications to your record. So if they didn't want any of the marketing communications for certain bits, we can say do not allow on certain items, and then you can use those in your queries to exclude those people that have said do not email or do not phone. Okay, so that's a summary of our lead. So we've inserted a new lead. So this is an open lead. One of the things that you should keep on top of when you're creating leads is making sure you're putting your communications in your timeline. So if you have a phone call with that lead, you should log that phone call in the system. So this training isn't going to go through the activities, it's just a pointer for you. So adding items into the timeline, when you've had appointments with that lead, when you've made phone calls, when you've sent emails, you would log all of that into your timeline. And the timeline becomes the history and the future activities that you will perform with that lead. You can also add notes in here for things like attachments as well into the lead. One thing that I would advise is that really you shouldn't have any leads, or when we look at this, opportunities in the database that wouldn't have a follow-up action to be done against that lead, because otherwise you'll end up forgetting about that lead. Yes, you could do queries about open leads, but ideally that if this lead went cold, for example, for a little while, we would add a phone call to follow that up in 3 months' time and then keep repeating that process until we could move that lead onto an opportunity, or we would disqualify that lead as there's no interest on there. So I would advise it's important to keep on top of putting your phone calls against your records to make sure there's some sort of communication to touch base. That's with leads, opportunities, existing customers in the system. Okay, so our next steps with our lead, our next natural steps with the lead is to then go through what would we do if we needed to disqualify or qualify our leads. But just before we do that, I just want to recap on a couple of little bits. So if we click on the lead section here on the left, this will show you all your leads. So in here, you'll see all your leads. So you can see the new lead that I've just made, and you can use your views then to filter down your leads. So this is where you would go to see all the different leads that you're working on in the system. So when I'm in here, so if I say, for example, I'm on my Jane, so then we can send just here, if I click that, this shows me my open leads. So this shows me the rest of the open leads that I had. So the reason why this can click off, and then you can put a status of why that lead was disqualified. Once you do that, that would be it. That lead would then be read only, and that lead would be disqualified. So if I did that, let's just say I lost that lead. You can see here, the lead was successfully disqualified and becomes disqualified. Over on the left here in my leads view, it's then taken out of my open leads. When we qualify this, they will then become unlocked. So on contact existing account. So what happens is that, especially if you've got this linked up with your website, so you're importing data into leads, is that Jane Smith may already be in the database as a contact, and CF Marketing might already be in there as an account. So what this allows you to do, it does allow you to link it to an existing account or an existing contact in the database. So when I press qualify, if existing account and contact is not filled in against my contact and the account, if I had the account filled in, and then it would create an opportunity against that new contact and existing account. If I had both of these filled out, then what it would do, it would just create a new opportunity against this existing contact and account. So it caters for those records already existing in the database, so you're not creating duplicates and creating new ones of those contacts in the database, so that you're not creating new ones every time. So this is going to be brand new, so we're just going to qualify it as it is. We want to create the records, so we're going to press qualify. So that's created my contact. Look at the account. Under accounts on the left, on the relationship prospect, so we're at the prospect stage with that record, and you can see it's pulled over the details. It's really important that you keep on all your customers, your suppliers, your prospects, your partners, your vendors, they're all going in there as an account. Then you can specify what type of relationship you have with that account. Then what you can start doing is you can then start making smaller pots of data. You can start interrogating that data a lot more. So one of our sessions that we have coming up next week is around reporting on the data that we have. So we'll spend a bit more time around that sort of stuff. So when we've filled this information in here, we can look at how we can report on that in our next session. So, okay, so we're back to our leads. So we qualified our lead, it created the account, and then we can see it created the contact and it created the opportunity. So from that one lead, it created those 3 records. So let's go back into our opportunity. So I'm going to click on the opportunity from the account. So let's explain the opportunity. Topic, the account, the contact, those fields we filled in. We can update these fields, so we can change information on here. This is just a standard out of the box opportunities. Many of your opportunities, if you have looked at yours before, probably look quite similar to this as well. We can specify what their need is, what solution we're proposing here as well. We've got the timeline in the middle. So all our phone calls, our meetings, quotes that we send out, follow-up calls, follow-up actions, we would log all of this in our timeline. And on the right-hand side here, we can see our stakeholders. That's been pulled over from the lead. And from here as well, we can still keep adding in additional stakeholders. Or if there were no longer a stakeholder on this, we can remove that stakeholder as well by deleting the connection. So remember, stakeholders are external, reporting purposes and stuff. I'm the one that owns it. If we're looking at my sales figures, it'd be based on this owner. But very seldom do we work where it's just us working on an opportunity and providing a quote. If we're working with other people to get us to that quote, so we work with the, say, development team, the sales team, the project management team, then under sales team here, I can add in any other new connections. So these would be internal users that might help you with this opportunity. So if me and David are working on this, then I could add Dave in here as a sales team. Important to note though that for reporting purposes, it's all about the owner. So the sales figures and stuff will all be contributed to the owner. And then we had on the top right, so we got in our header here, a couple of fields, really key, very important that you keep on top of that. And talking to sales, sometimes it's a finger in the air estimation of when you believe you're going to close, especially now because some things might be on pause or on hold. It's important that you keep on top of that estimated close date. We shouldn't have any open opportunities in the CRM system with an estimated close date that's passed. If it's passed, that means you've kind of forgotten about that opportunity. So that's where, you know, we use the features that we have. We use the activities to follow up with our calls. We keep on top of the estimated close date. Because if we're looking at people's sales figures, what's in the pipeline, you know, what's been put on hold, estimated close date is the date that we would go to see where our open opportunities are at. So whilst we're on this bit here, there is also a feature in here under the status, so that if an opportunity is placed on hold, so you know circumstances have changed at the moment, we want to put that on hold. So generally, if you're putting opportunities on hold, they may be excluded or reported on separately to those that are open. So we can place opportunities on hold in the system, but you would still keep on top of your estimated close date. So you might push that estimated close out a lot further. So we're going to keep as in progress. Okay, so then with this opportunity, we do have a sales stage here. So this is what we call a business process that along the top, and this is coming from the lead as well. So think of this as that this is open opportunities, and what it allows us to do, it will allow us to report on opportunities at certain stages within the business process. In that business process, so I'm at develop. If I click on that, it asks me these things to see if I've filled these items out. I don't have to fill these out till I move on to the next stage, so I can move on to the next stage without filling these out. It is possible in the business process, and we do this for lots of people, that you can make some of these mandatory so they can't move on to the next stage until they've said they've filled in this information. So it's like a gate. These are like gatekeeping steps and checkpoints. You know, have you done this in the develop stage before you are then in the propose stage? So the idea is that we can start filling this information out, and then we can then move on to the next stage of that opportunity. We'll come back to that as well. We'll come back to that. So just want to an explanation of this business process. This is all customizable as well, so we can have more or less stages in here. You don't have to have a business process either, so that is all configurable. Okay, so let's move on to then about what it is they're actually interested in. So we've got the summary of our opportunity in, and now we want to put the products and services in of what it is that they are planning to purchase. So if I click on the products tab, I'm going to pick my price list. And you see here, revenue, this says user provided. What that means is that this estimated revenue here on the top right, this will allow me just to, rather than it being user provided, we'll do system calculated. It reverts back to 0, provide an estimated amount of revenue that's worth, just like I did. But when we move it to system calculated, the revenue then is calculated by the products that we add into the opportunity. So we're going to go ahead and start adding in some products. So I'm going to press add products. Okay, so we've got a brand new feature here for products. So you would be singly selecting a product one by one. So you'd add the product once, and then you then go and add the product, another product, and then add another product. So what it does now with the add product feature, and this is something that just needs to be enabled with the new release of CRM, is we can select multiple products at one time. So I can specify multiple products in here at one time. If you're looking at those prices, by the way, these are all fictitious prices. I've just made those up for this training session. So if I say they're interested in CRM Online Professional, I can press add, and I can specify then the quantity. And let's say we need some training days. So I'm going to add, and let's say there's 3 training days. So I've selected 2 products there. I can select 3, 4, 5. I can select all of them. And when I press add to opportunity, it adds all of them in one go. So I don't have to go add product, CRM Online Professional, add product each time. You can just go to multiple products at one time. See, so that's really equals my estimated revenue here. So in this product list, this is an editable list, so you can start discounting products as well. So if you were specifying a discount, I can put in a discount here, and it's a monetary value discount, and this is per product line. So I could say, okay, we'll give you $8.50 discount, and then I'll press save, and you can see the extended amount has updated. Shortly when the screen refreshes, the estimated, you don't have to refresh it to see it straight away. The bottom here is 2,600, and that's reflected in our estimated revenue. You can provide further discounts on here as well. So you could say, okay, to get this over the line, we agreed that we'd also give an additional 10% discount. And I'm just going to force this to say so we don't have to wait 15 seconds. And then you can see the detail amount is the sum of the products lines. It's 2,600. I've then applied a 10% discount. Also specify a monetary. So let's say I agreed £140 discount as well. So I've agreed 10% and £140 off. Then that you can as well. There is an option to put a freight amount on here as well. So if there was a freight or a shipping amount that you wanted to put in here, you can also put that in the freight amount in here, and you can see it adds it into the total amount. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that's the best way to add anything to do with shipping. What we would normally do is we would add those shipping costs in as a product. So there would be a product for shipping because they might have how much shipping costs and things like that by the product lines. Okay, so that's our opportunity and our opportunity products. So the next thing then is you can push the data that we've just put in Word template. So I'm going to show you this with just a standard, and it's probably available to everybody in their opportunities as well, is on the top menu bar here. If I click on the little More Commands button, today's session is not about creating an idea of what we can push out. So you see how quick that was? It's exported that to Word. So the deal is, so your next logical steps on here, save that template as a PDF and then pop that on an email, and then you could then track that email back into Dynamics to complete the loop of sending that quote off. So we'll just close it down. Here was about producing a quote template. But what we can do under quotes, we can produce quote records. We're not covering this on today's session, but if you'd like a more formalized way of recording quotes that have been done and the discounts that are provided, there is an option in here to use quotes. And basically every time that you would revise the cost or give discounts, because an opportunity you might revise it 5, 10 times before you close it. So the quotes give you formal record lines of quotes that you've provided with the different values that you provided. So it gives you an audit trail of all the different quotes that you sent out as records rather than just as attachments against an opportunity. That's not something we're going to cover in today's session because we have time constraints. Okay, so let's go back to our summary. So before we talk about close winning or close losing this opportunity, let's just summarize a couple of bits. So on the opportunities on the left, you can see in here, We have our different views, and we can what your opportunities that you're working on are. You can closed opportunities and opportunities in the database. You can search for opportunities by the name of their opportunity as well, so you could search for a particular opportunity. One of my tips for you would be that when you're searching for a specific opportunity, is I probably wouldn't use this opportunities list to look for, and one account can have many opportunities. What I would advise the account section that the opportunity is for, you could click to go into just a little navigate and get back to your opportunities. Use this opportunity down then. So there's a couple of options. We can close it as won and close it as lost. So before we close it as won or lost, just to come back to our business process. So this business process is about reporting on the opportunity in the open stage. So we can look at open opportunities at the qualify stage, at the develop stage, at the propose stage. So it gives people a better idea about how far along you are with that opportunity. So before I get to my closing out of winning or losing this, I'm going to move from my propose stage. I'm going to say I've done my steps in my propose stage. And I'll move on to my last stage to close out the opportunity. And I'm going to close. When you finish the process, it doesn't mean that it's going to close the opportunity down for you. So finish and still need to press to close as won or close as lost. For reporting purposes, I appreciate that salespeople certainly don't like to lose. If an opportunity is lost, we can close the opportunity as lost. And then we can put some closing information about the deliverable and the date it was closed. So we can specify, once we press OK, the opportunity then would be closed and would be read only. We're in the business of sales for today, so we're going to close this one as won. So I'm going to cancel this and show you how you close one. That appears. Except your actual revenue is reflected by your estimated revenue. So we've got the status reasons one, and you've got your actual revenue. What I would advise here is do not change your actual revenue here. If the amount that you actually want it for changed, that should be reflected in the products and services and the discounts to that closed one basis. You'll end up with discrepancies in some of your sales figures. So whenever you close winning it, that value should reflect the actual. We can back the close date to a closing sum to the end of the week, so you can modify the close date there. Competitor is locked because that's only reserved for competitors that you've lost opportunities to, and then we can put some closing description there in the description. So when I press OK, that now becomes a won opportunity. When it's won, the record does become read-only, so you can't change information about that record once it's won. Once it's won, that record is read-only. It is about how we then start reporting on our opportunities and leads and things like that. So we have these and sales and leads, and although this is something we'll focus on that session. On the top left, these are really, really useful and something I use in my CRM system a lot. So recent shows you records that you've recently been on or recent views that you've been on. So like myself, I work with a few projects and accounts at a time. I like to pin those because this recent list is really useful. It shows you records you've recently been on, but it holds about 10 items and recent items in there. But I can, next to say CF marketing, I can use that pin and pin it, so add to pin. I can pin other stuff, then I could pin Jane as well. Collapse that. And now in my pins, they'll always be there. So this recent list will change, where I can take those off pin everything. So you can just, you see when we're in pinned, just unpin it. So remove from pin, and we can unpin it up to some questions.
Yeah, so if anyone could, thank you, Carl, but if anyone could pop some questions in the chat, if you have any, that would be greatly appreciated. Right, we have one. Can the auto save feature be turned off for leads?
So the auto save feature is a global setting, so it can't be turned off per area. So it's either enable autosave for the whole system or disable autosave in the whole system. That is an administration function, but they are your options that you have for turning off or on autosave. Thank you for your question. It'd be great to have some more questions. Don't be shy if you've got a question. I'm sure somebody else will be thinking of it as well. If you do have some questions but feel like you don't want to ask on this chat, then you can also feel free to email us after this session as well.
Absolutely. We do have another question though, thank you. We have not yet moved over to the new updated version. Will we lose the extra options in our sales stage?
So I believe you're referring to the sales stage, the business process bar that appears here along the top. So if you're upgrading your CRM, so if you're still on the old interface and you upgrade your CRM, the forms and everything else do get upgraded with it, and you should still see the same business process here, so the sales stages that you have within it. So you shouldn't lose that.
Thank you, Carl. Any other questions? Do you want to move on to the final slide, Carl, while we're waiting?
No problem.
So yeah, thank you all very much for taking time out to go through this. Much appreciated. We are running a number of other different sort of free training webinars on sort of Office 365, cloud, some more on Dynamics CRM, some from an ERP point of view, an accounting perspective, security, and also reporting and sort of business intelligence, products like Microsoft Power BI. We have another question. Can Dynamics 365 CRM link with Sage 200C? Yes, we have our own integration module for that, so we can integrate with Sage 200. Another good question. Finally, we have we'll be sending out a very brief feedback form. So if anyone could just provide a little bit of feedback to hopefully help us shape some further webinars and any other suggestions that you may have on how we could have sort of maybe done things a little bit better, that would be much appreciated as well. Give it another minute or so just in case there are any additional questions. And of course, as Carl said, please do just drop us an email. You'll have our email addresses from the sort of the reminder call this morning.
Also, if you did enjoy this session, you found it useful, then feel free to come on our next session next week on the sales and reporting training. We're going to look at dashboards and charts and how we can use those from an end user's point of view rather than an admin's point of view. So you should find that very useful on how you can start looking at the data that you have.
And you'll see that on experience-group.com/webinars as per the link on screen. Okay, well, we'll leave it there, but thank you all very much, much appreciated, and hopefully speak to you all on the next session. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.